Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be, suddenly she became interested in me again. I've got an email here from a guy who's been with his wife for about 15 years. They've been married for about 12. They've got kids together, and he first found my work after he had an argument with his wife because she basically told him that she wasn't interested in him anymore and didn't have any feelings. So obviously he got very upset about that, and she took off with the kids, and that's when he started looking for answers, and his brother was nice enough to recommend my book. He went out and got himself a marriage counselor, and now he's completely turned things around. So it's a great success story. And I got a quote that I wrote on this topic. I'm going to go through the quote, and then we're going to go through his email and see what he did. Because I know about 90% of the people, when they first come to me, they've had a breakup, or they were dating this girl and they thought it was going real great, and then they get friend zoned, or she no longer wants to go out with them, or maybe she's kind of ghosting him or not returning his phone calls. So there's a lot of guys that get themselves in these kinds of situations, and I love teaching this stuff because it doesn't matter what type of relationship you want to have, whether you're just wanting to date and hook up and explore the world, if you will, or you're looking to settle down and get married, or you're looking to rekindle things. The bottom line is every man, and every woman for that matter, has to know how to create attraction in their mate, maintain it, and keep it, regardless of how long or how short your relationship happens to be. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know how to create attraction and you don't know how to maintain it, you're not going to be able to date the people that you want for very long, and you're going to feel like your life is totally out of control. And especially as a man, when you feel like one girl after another just kind of slips through your fingers, that's the worst fucking feeling in the world, because you don't feel like a man. You don't feel good enough, and then you start telling yourself that more, and it becomes a reinforcing prophecy, and a lot of guys just kind of spiral down until they hit rock bottom, and then that's when they typically find out about my work. So let's go through the quote, and then I'm going to go through his email and see what he did. So the quote says, "By focusing on becoming a person of high value who loves their life and their life's work, you will give off the vibe that other potential high value lovers are also giving off. By becoming the type of person that you want to attract, you will automatically attract like-minded lovers who share the same goals and values effortlessly. Meeting the right person is a side effect of becoming the best version of you. Like attracts like. It's a universal law." And for those of you who are probably going to comment about the audio, obviously you recognize from the background, I'm in a new place. I did get part of my sound booth here, which is, you don't see it, it's behind the camera. But until I get all the rugs and the rest of my furniture, you're going to hear some of the echo. So I appreciate those of you that don't mind. So let's go through his email and see what we can see. He says, "Hello, Coach Corey. I'm a 36-year-old man, and I've known my wife for 15 years, and I've been married for 12. A year and a half ago, I started noticing a change in my wife's behavior. She became distant, and our sex life almost disappeared. Well, as I say in my book, when a woman feels heard and understood, the legs open. And when she doesn't, the legs close." When 99% of the time when I talk to guys that are in long-term relationships, they do one of two things. They're either not communicating with their girlfriend or wife properly, or they stop dating and courting her like they once did. And they, in essence, have become roommates. He says, "I tried asking several times of her what the problem was, but she never gave me a solid answer. She would always say that she was tired of taking care of her children, and that she was never really in the mood to have sex anymore. Obviously, she didn't feel beautiful, she didn't feel appreciated, she didn't feel special, she didn't feel courted, and if you're not taking the time to communicate and talk and open her up and go out and date like you once did when you first met, all women are going to get to this point. It's just simply a matter of time." He says, "For some reason, I thought this was going to go away on its own, and I became complacent. Fast forward to last summer, and our relationship had taken a dive, and the communication was no longer there. Sex was non-existent, and I found myself submerged and fully focused on my job. Well, when guys, the average guy gets in trouble in their relationship, and as us guys, we're driven to succeed. If our girl is happy, we feel successful. In other words, we take credit for that. And obviously, if she's unhappy, we take credit for that as well. And at some point, if a guy is unable to, on a perpetual basis, feel like he's able to make his woman happy, eventually he's going to give up and he's going to withdraw, either to the man cave or diving into his work or friends or just doing outside activities, because he in essence has given up. And that's what you see here. He's kind of focused all in his job instead of his relationship, because he's tried to fix things and she gives him an answer that he doesn't really understand, and then he just immerses and buries himself in his job. It's a pretty common thing that I see. He says, it was not until after a big discussion that my wife revealed to me that she had grown apart from me and that she no longer loved me. I refused to accept what she was telling me and reacted in a negative way. I became angry to the point that I made a big scene at home, causing her to leave with our kids. He says, I then realized that the next step for her was to divorce me. And that's usually the average guy. Is like, when the breakup happens, or she's moved out, or she's staying at the family's house, or maybe he's packed his shit and gone to a buddy's house. Then that's when reality really sets in, that all those things she'd been saying for a while, she really meant it. Because a lot of guys would hear those things, go, oh, she doesn't really mean that. She won't really leave me. And then when it happens, they seem to be able to come up with time for the divorce attorney. I reacted right away, and I sought help. I contacted a marriage counselor, and I was able to convince my wife to go with me to couples therapy. That's great. The fact that she actually went with you is a good sign, because it takes two people to make a relationship work. And a lot of times when men or women come to me, it's after the other person has just stopped responding and has told you basically to pound sand and to go away. But in this particular case, she was willing to make an effort, because at the end of the day, in order for a relationship to work, both people have to be willing to make the effort. And the fact that she was willing to go to couples therapy is a big reason why you're able to work things out. Because a lot of guys aren't in that situation. And for the guys that are in that situation where she's just like, no, I'm not interested in counseling, I'm just interested in a divorce, that's when you state what you want, just like I talk about in 7 Principles to Get an Ex Back and the Best Strategy to Get an Ex Back article I did many years ago. And then go on with your life and focus on you and making yourself happy. And the other person, you leave the door and you say, well, when you're ready to talk and work it out, give me a call. And the guy doesn't go and try to get divorced or do any of that stuff. It's like, let the wife or be the woman the one that drives that. Because at the end of the day, if she's the one that unilaterally ends the relationship, she's got to decide at some point that she wants to rekindle it. You just can't force it upon the other person. That's why, like I talked about in the quote, the best thing that you can do is control the controllables, if you will, as we say in the coaching field. And the controllables are the things that you personally have control over. Because at the end of the day, you don't have control over what your wife or your girlfriend does. You only have control over how you show up in your life. And it's really about putting yourself in the same kind of vibrational state that you were energetically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically when you first met her. Because before you were in a relationship, you had your life, you had your friends, you had your life's work, you had your hobbies, your interests, the things that you focused on. And men and women both, the longer they're in a relationship, a lot of those hobbies and interests and friendships kind of go by the wayside. And what happens is both people, or one of those people in the relationship, stops being the person that the other person fell in love with. So he continues on. For the next 3 months, I became a roller coaster of emotions. I lost a bunch of weight, and I couldn't reconcile with my sleep. I became paranoid with the thought of her leaving me, and suddenly found myself trapped in a corner of depression. It wasn't until my brother told me about you and your book that he shared with me. So obviously you got the counselor first, and things got better, but at the end of the day, you got the best marriage counselor and couples therapist in the world, and if you're not acting like a man is supposed to act and taking care of the things that a man is supposed to take care of, you're not going to be able to save it. And That's reality. That's where I come in. That's why 99% of the guys that come to me, or the women for that matter, that are already in couples therapy and counseling, if both people aren't centered in their masculine and their feminine energy based on what their natural essence is, that sexual polarity is just not going to be there. And without the sexual polarity, you're just going to have feelings of platonic friendship towards the other person and them towards you. From day one, I began to understand a bunch of things that I was doing wrong. I learned to accept my reality, and I stopped torturing myself with the thought of her leaving, to the point that it no longer haunts me. At the end of the day, if you focus on being the best version of yourself, she still may leave you. And that's why I tell people all the time that are trying to get an ex back, you'll either get the ex back or you'll get someone better, because when you apply the things I teach, you personally will become a person of higher value, if you will. And the higher value you are, the happier you are, the more exciting life is to you, and that vibration that you give off will cause you to attract somebody else who's in the same vibrational state as you are. And also, by the same token, if you're unhappy with yourself in your life, the people that you're going to tend to attract in your life, your friendships, your potential clients, your potential lovers, are going to be in the same state of mind. So if you're not happy with the kind of people that you're attracting into your life, maybe they're negative, maybe they're pessimistic, maybe they're not as successful as you are, as you want to be, it starts with you. It starts with how you show up and what you do in your own life. You really have to become the kind of person you want to attract. He continues on, I became secure in myself and I recovered my confidence and my self-esteem. It's not that you lost your confidence or your self-esteem, you just stopped demonstrating what you were, and then you got back to your basics once you realized what you were doing differently now versus the guy you used to be that caused her to first fall in love with you. I did all this only for myself, but my wife noticed the change and suddenly she became interested in me again. In other words, he took care of what he can control, which was how he showed up. He started acting like a man, started being the leader, started taking care of things, started being a good listener, started dating and courting her properly again. He became that guy that she fell in love with all those years ago when they first met. Today, I am in charge of my marriage, and I keep on reading your book, and I subscribe to your videos and newsletters. I feel now that I have learned the tools needed to have a successful relationship, and all is thanks to my brother and to you. Well, you did the work. The bottom line is you were open to a solution. You were searching for the solution, and thankfully, you had a brother that hooked you up. But at the end of the day, you did the work, dude. You're responsible for it. Your success or your failure begins and ends with what you do or what you fail to do. My wife and I continue to visit the couples therapist, and we have made enormous progress in our relationship. Every new day, I find a way of making her whole, and the best part of all of it is that she reciprocates. Well, at the end of the day, the purpose of all relationships, not just your intimate ones, is you go there to give. You're there to help each other grow and become more. You're there to meet each other's needs. It's not about dragging the other person along with you or vice versa. And if you're being dragged along by your partner or your friends or your lovers or even your employer, eventually they're going to get tired of carrying your ass and they're going to toss you aside. Be like Einstein said, focus on becoming a person of value. Last week, she told me that she wanted us to renew our vows, our wedding vows, and for the first time in 2 years, she told me that she loves me. That's fucking awesome, dude. I'm really happy for you. Really happy that you're able to save your marriage and your family, and at the end of the day, it's your birthright. You deserve this. All you needed was to fill in your knowledge gap and to take the right appropriate action, and you got predictable results. And for those of you that may be in a similar situation and you'd like to get my help personally, you can go to my website and click the products tab at the top of your screen and book a coaching session with yours truly. And if you haven't gotten my book, you can get a copy of the audiobook for free by subscribing to audible.com service, or you can buy it outright. Depending on the country you're in, you're looking at anywhere from 15 to 20 American US dollars. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.